In Cape Coral, one utility bill can hit $35,000 before you even close on the house. And that's just one of the reasons I'm ranking Cape Coral neighborhoods from best to worst. I've helped hundreds of families buy and sell right here in Southwest Florida, so I know which areas make sense, which ones need a closer look, and which ones can catch buyers off guard. Let's dive in. When people think of Cape Coral, this is what they imagine. Boats passing by docks, sun hitting the canals, water pretty much everywhere you look, and that's the everyday backdrop here. The city has over 400 miles of navigable waterways, more than any other city in the world, but a lot of buyers don't realize this until they're already under contract. Not every canal gets you to the Gulf of America. Whether that canal is saltwater with Gulf access or freshwater with no Gulf access can be one of the biggest things that decides the price of a home here, and that changes depending on what side of town you're in. And when we get near the bottom of this list, you'll see why one of the cheaper areas isn't always the deal people think it is. Stay tuned. Now, instead of treating Cape Coral like one big market, I'm bringing it into the 4 quadrants, plus the neighbor next door that buyers overlook all the time. We'll go from best to worst, starting with the part of the city that set the standard everybody else is still trying to catch. Starting with the area a lot of people buy into first. The Southwest is the most established part of Cape Coral. It's probably the closest thing this city has to a finished product. You've got deep water Gulf access with no bridge to deal with, and in Cape Coral, that's a big deal. That's one of the reasons this side carries the highest prices in the city. Cape Harbor and Tarpon are the 2 names you'll hear over and over again. Cape Harbor has that marina feel, restaurants on the water, boats coming in and out, pretty much that little village setup. And Tarpon Point feels more like a resort, where you've got the hotel there, the marina, and quick access to the Gulf. If you're looking at either one of those, you're in a different part of the market. A lot of what's active in Tarpon Point is in the high 800s. Cape Harbor tends to sit more in the high 400s, but not everybody wants the marina or the resort feel right next door. That's where Pelican makes sense. Pelican gives you that clean, put together Southwest Cape feel without always paying for the private dock or the hotel lobby around the corner. Sandoval is another one to know, more accessible, landing more in the low to mid to high 300s, and you still get the gated community feels, clubhouse, pool, amenities, neighbors who are out and about. I'm saving the most interesting alternative on this list for last. That one skips the whole Gulf access conversation altogether, but let's finish this side first. Now, one thing buyers miss in the Southwest is the utilities extension assessments. In a lot of this quadrant, the water, sewer, and irrigation centers have been paid off by the owners before you. That can be tens of thousands of dollars you're not taking on when you buy. That's one of the quiet reasons this side holds value the way it does. It's also one of the best looking parts of Cape Coral. Clean lawns, established homes, newer builds mixed in, and neighborhoods that feel more settled than other parts of the city. There's a boat culture here too that's hard to explain until you see it. Cape Coral has been reported to have more registered boats per person than any other city in Florida, and in the Southwest, you feel that on a Saturday afternoon. My wife has lived in Cape Coral since she was 7. She's watched this area go from empty lots to what's now one of the nicest parts of the city. So when I tell you this site has changed, I'm not guessing. I've heard it from her. And if you're selling here, my advice is patience. Homes in this price range can take longer to move than a starter home. That's just how this tier of the market works. And look, if you're watching this thinking the Southwest sounds like where you want to land, this is the kind of purchase you want to walk through carefully. Reach out with the contact info in the description or scan the QR code on your screen. I work with buyers on Gulf access homes in this part of Cape Coral every week. So up next, we're heading to the side of the city where the history runs deeper, but so does the fine print. One of a neighborhood's biggest strengths can also be the thing that catches buyers off guard. That's the Southeast, and more specifically, the Yacht Club area. This is one of the original parts of Cape Coral, and it sits closer to the river than pretty much anywhere else in the city. If you want that older, classic Cape Coral feel, this is where you find it. A lot of the homes were built in the 1960s and 70s, and that's part of the charm, with mature streets, older character, and neighborhoods that feel like they've been here for a while. But that's also where you have to slow down. Older homes in this part of town can sit at a lower base flood elevation than homes being built today, and that one detail can change your flood insurance bill in a big way. So if you're looking at anything built before the 1990s out here, don't skip the elevation certificate. That paper tells you where the home sits compared to the flood level. It can be the difference between paying a few $100s a year and paying a few thousand. You got to check it before you write the offer. And this homework is even more important when we get to 2 neighborhoods down the list, because there, skipping the fine print can cost tens of thousands. We'll get there. Now, the upside here is real. You're close to Bimini Square, the waterfront restaurants, and that whole basin area where people go out and hang around the water. You're also closer to Fort Myers Beach, and Sanibel than almost anywhere else in Cape Coral. So if beach beach weekends are part of why you're moving here, the trade-off is traffic. Most of the traffic heading into Fort Myers has to go through either the Cape Coral Parkway Bridge or the Midpoint Memorial Bridge. And the southeast sits right near that pressure point. During season, that drive can stretch out fast. The original Yacht Club Community Park took serious damage from Hurricane Ian, and the city is now about $197.5 million into rebuilding it. Once that's done, this area should become one of the strongest waterfront spots in Cape Coral again. So if you're buying long-term, keep that in mind. When it comes to pricing, you're looking in the mid 600s around here, but that can change depending how close you are to the water and how updated the home is. From here, we're heading to the fastest growing part of Cape Coral, and this is where the concerns change. It's less about what's already built and more about what's still being built. And before we move on, if you're trying to figure out which side of Cape Coral makes sense for you, buying, selling, or just seeing where your money goes the furthest, reach out to me today. All my contact info is in the description below. Now, let's get into the number 3 spot on the list. The Northwest Cape used to be the quiet edge of Cape Coral, but not anymore. Right now, they got cranes, dump trucks, and new construction everywhere. This is the fastest growing part of the city, and it's turning into one of the biggest growth corridors in Lee County. Hudson Creek alone is close to 1,745 acres, with plans for about 3,500 homes, plus retail, an hotel, and university space in the plan. That's pretty much a small city being built inside the city. Then you got 7 islands with close to 1,000 residential units planned on man-made islands out on the water, plus a Marriott branded resort with its own marina. That kind of project can change the direction of a whole area, not just 1 or 2 streets. And when we get to the alternative later, we land somewhere with bigger lots and none of these assessment headaches. Now, much of the Northwest is still being built, so you can get more house and more land for your money out here. You can find a golf access home for less than something similar in the Southwest because this site hasn't fully caught up in price yet. You're also closer to Matlacha, Pine Island, Bokeelia, and it's a shorter drive toward Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda than pretty much anywhere else in Cape Coral. Newer parks are going in, pickleball courts are popping up all over the place, and pickleball has kind of taken over this side of town. The Northwest is less developed than the Southwest or Southeast today, but that's the appeal if you're thinking long term. You're buying into where Cape Coral is going, not just where it already is. If you're selling out here, you need a real strategy from day one. There's a lot of new construction competing for the same buyer, so you just can't throw a high price on a house and hope. Price it right early, stay open to negotiation, and you'll give yourself a much better shot. Next, we're going to the neighborhood where the price tag hides more than it shows. Earlier, we talked about how many homes in the Southwest already have those utility assessments paid off by previous owners. The Northeast is the opposite. This area can look like a deal at first, and that's where buyers have to be careful. The Northeast is the most affordable part of Cape Coral. On paper, that sounds great. You can find brand new construction in the mid 300s, which makes sense if you're trying to stretch your budget. But a lot of buyers see that price and stop reading, and that's the problem. What they miss is the utilities assessment sitting behind it. A big part of this side of the city is still being connected to city water, sewer, and reclaimed irrigation through the utilities extension project, and that connection comes with a bill. We're talking somewhere between $20,000 and $35,000 depending on the lot, and that can get added right onto your property tax bill for years after you buy. So before you fall in love with the price out here, ask one thing first. Is the utilities assessment already paid off, or is the buyer taking it all on? That one answer can change the real cost of the home by tens of thousands of dollars, and that's the kind of thing that blindsides buyers when nobody talks about it up front. Now, look-wise, the Northeast just isn't as polished as the other quadrants yet. You've got more multifamily mixed into the neighborhoods, and there's no golf access out there. These are freshwater canals, but you do get some real advantages. You're closer to I-75, Punta Gorda, Babcock Ranch, and Fort Myers. So if commuting, driving around the region, or getting more house for the money matters more than golf access living, this side is worth looking at. But if all this talk about surprise bills has you second guessing Cape Coral, stay with me, because there's a simpler option right next door, the alternative that I've been talking about. If Cape Coral's assessments are making you nervous, don't count yourself out of Southwest Florida just yet. I used to live in Lehigh Acres myself, and my parents still live there today. So when I talk about this place, I'm not just reading from a listing sheet. I know what living there actually feels like. Lehigh is laid out on that same pre-platted grid you see in early Cape Coral, with a huge amount of land still waiting to be built on. On the price side of things, the entry-level homes run in the low 300s, which puts it noticeably below what you'd pay in Cape Coral for something comparable. The lots are bigger too. In Lehigh, you're often looking at half an acre or more compared to Cape Cole's standard quarter-acre lots, and that gives you real room for a boat, an RV, a workshop, or whatever else your lifestyle needs. And there are quarter-acre lots there as well. And you avoid Cape Cole's UEP program entirely, though pockets of Lehigh are seeing their own smaller septic to sewer conversion costs, so it's still worth asking. That's what makes Lehigh such a strong option for first-time buyers who want more space for less money. And if you're thinking long-term in this part of the county, it's absolutely worth keeping on your radar. The buyers who come out ahead in this market choose their trade-offs on purpose. They decide whether they're prioritizing price, paperwork, or patience before they ever start shopping for a house. And if you're trying to figure out which of these 4 quadrants best fits your budget and timeline, email me at german@swflhouses.com today. I'll pull current listings in the areas that make the most sense for what you're looking for. Reach out today. Now, the video I've linked breaks down the insurance costs and utility bills that catch even experienced buyers off guard, including one utilities assessment that topped $32,000 on a single property last year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.